Behind the polished desk of late-night television's most iconic show, Johnny Carson masterfully orchestrated 3 decades of entertainment with his trademark charm and quick wit. But even television's most gracious host had his limits. While millions watched Carson's seemingly effortless interviews, few knew about the tensions simmering beneath the surface with certain guests who tested his legendary patience. Perhaps the most surprising friction came between Carson and fellow comedy legend Bob Hope. While viewers at home saw 2 giants of entertainment sharing laughs, backstage Carson privately bristled at Hope's rigid approach to comedy. The problem wasn't Hope's talent. It was his insistence on turning The Tonight Show into his personal stage. For pre-written material, it was like trying to interview a promotional tape, one Tonight Show writer later revealed. Bob would arrive with his stack of cue cards, and Johnny's role was reduced to being a glorified straight man. For Carson, whose genius lay in organic conversation and spontaneous wit, Hope's appearances became an exercise in suppressing frustration. Every joke was planned, every response scripted, transforming what should have been engaging discussions into mechanical performances that made Carson feel like a prop in his own show. While most guests who irritated Carson did so through their personalities or performance styles, Wayne Newton took things to a more personal level. Carson's playful jabs at Newton's flamboyant persona and high-pitched voice, standard fare for his monologues, struck a nerve with the Las Vegas entertainer. The situation reached its boiling point when Newton stormed into Carson's office unannounced. Face to face with the king of late night, Newton made it clear that the jokes needed to stop. The confrontation left Carson, who preferred wielding wit rather than dealing with physical intimidation, deeply unsettled. While the jokes about Newton decreased afterward, the tension between them never dissipated, making every subsequent appearance an exercise in uncomfortable politeness. No story of Carson's difficult relationships resonates more deeply than his falling out with Joan Rivers. Initially, Rivers was more than just a frequent guest. She was Carson's protege, his trusted guest host, and seemingly his heir apparent. Their rapport was electric, their comedic chemistry undeniable. But in 1986, everything changed. When Rivers accepted an offer to host her own competing late-night show on Fox, she committed what Carson considered an unforgivable sin. She didn't tell him first. For Carson, this wasn't just a career move. It was a personal betrayal. His response was swift and absolute. Rivers was banned from The Tonight Show, a prohibition that would outlast Carson's tenure and continue through Jay Leno's era. Some of Carson's most challenging guests weren't difficult because of personal conflicts, but because their presence disrupted the careful balance he maintained on his show. Fred Rogers, beloved by millions as Mr. Rogers, presented Carson with a unique predicament. How do you maintain your signature wit and playful banter with a guest whose entire persona is built on sincere, gentle communication? These segments often felt like a tug-of-war between 2 fundamentally different approaches to television. Carson's attempts at humor would gently bounce off Rogers' earnest responses, creating moments that, while fascinating to watch, left Carson struggling to find his usual rhythm. As America's most watched late-night host, Carson walked a careful line when it came to politics. This made his interactions with politically outspoken guests particularly delicate. Charlton Heston, renowned actor turned NRA president, frequently steered conversations toward controversial political topics, much to Carson's discomfort. While Carson enjoyed political humor in his monologues, he preferred to keep guest interviews lighter and more entertainment-focused. Similarly, Harry Belafonte's appearances, while respectful, often veered into serious discussions about civil rights and social justice, important topics but ones that created a challenging dynamic for a show built on entertainment and escapism. What made Carson's difficulties with certain guests particularly fascinating was how rarely viewers at home could detect his discomfort. His professionalism never wavered, his smile rarely faltered. Even when facing guests who tested his patience, Carson maintained the smooth, sophisticated demeanor that made him television's most trusted host for 30 years. In the end, these challenging relationships revealed as much about Carson as they did about his difficult guests. They showed a man who valued spontaneity over scripted interactions, wit over confrontation, and professionalism over controversy. More than anything, they demonstrated why Carson remained unmatched in his field, his ability to turn even the most challenging interviews into entertaining television, never letting his personal feelings overshadow his commitment to the audience. Behind that desk, Carson wasn't just hosting a show. He was conducting a nightly symphony of personalities, egos, and entertainment. And while some guests may have struck the wrong notes, Carson's masterful conducting never failed to deliver the performance his audience expected.